Hello again. In this video, I'm going to show you the process I used for creating a pixel art image of Slash, the famous guitarist. He's my famous guitar player, and so I decided to do this little, tribute. So we start off with a really rough sketch of what I think the iconic Slash pose is. Legs slightly apart, bent back, hips thrusting forward, in a way. And the top hat, of course, has to be part of that silhouette. So I start with that big sketch and then scale that sketch up to whatever size I need. And that's just going to act, as you can see, as a way for me to locate the different positions of the different body limbs. Here I was kind of explaining how the hip bone works and why it's a complicated bone to draw, because it's very three-dimensional. It's not like the other bones, which are basically a cylinder or basically a flat plane. The hip is actually quite complex. And the way that I had drawn the legs, I was drawing them basically using the shape of the leg itself without clothing. So here I'm adding the clothing folds at the bottom of the legs just to, simulate that these are, skin-tight jeans, but they still have some loose bits at the bottom. I'm deciding here where the light source is going to come, and for most people, most pixel artists would probably disagree to have such an amount of detail without having the whole image completed. But I've done a previous sketch of the pose, so I know where he's going to be standing, the pose he's going to have. What I'm trying to do here with shading those legs almost to their final shading is to make a bunch of decisions, which are going basically to lead the way for the rest of the design and the rest of the image. Here I'm drawing the hunched over pose. He's wearing a leather jacket, and the leather jacket itself is a very stiff piece of clothing, so it's sometimes kind of difficult to convey whether or not it's bending over the body or if it's just puffed up, like a kind of a winter jacket or something like that. But in this case, I'm hoping to be able to convey through lighting as well and through wrinkles on the jacket the pose. So adding the details kind of helps as well. If there's a seam, you kind of know that that's where those two pieces of clothing get together. So you kind of have an indication of what the position of the angle of the object is in the scene. And so those things always help, but they always as well take up space. Now I was really lucky here with the pose that I was able to get the guitar to be exactly at 45 degrees, which is great for, for pixel art lines. It would be more complicated if it was an odd number, like let's say 40 or 23, something like that. It's usually easier to work in 45, 60, or 30 degrees because they're very, those are very sort of well-spaced steps. So here I'm doing a gold top Les Paul. I'm not doing the Appetite for Destruction signature one. It's not really my favorite guitar. The Les Paul is, though, the model is my favorite model. And the gold top has a certain charm, being, the first Les Paul to ever be shipped was a gold top. The Les Paul is a very odd shape because you change a millimeter here or there and you completely ruin the design. So it's very complicated to do. And I will eventually get there, but I don't think I will really get there all that much. So it's now a part of me wants to kind of add the binding in, had some of the details in, but as well a lot of the important features of the character, specifically Slash, are missing: the head, the hair, and the top hat. So I'm kind of finding myself whether or not I should do those or fiddle with the guitar a little bit more so that I get the scale right. The Les Paul is a small body guitar. It's not very big. It's not like an ES335, which is a big guitar. It's not a classical or an acoustic guitar, which have bigger bodies. The Les Paul is a small one, so it's okay to have it be a small element of the image. Folds on leather jackets are slightly hard to do. So what I'm looking here is I'm looking at surfaces that are facing the camera. I'm thinking someone took this photo, right? Someone took this photo while Slash was on stage. Probably they took this photo with flash. If they were a professional photographer, they probably wouldn't. But I'm guessing most people use flash when they take photos at night or on ill-lit environments. And in this case, the flash actually helps bring out the details in the leather, because all the surfaces that are facing the camera, both up facing surfaces or down facing surfaces like concave or convex surfaces, they all eventually have a part of their surface that reflects the light. So I was able to pick up on those and had the brighter grays on those areas to simulate highlights. The rest of the work that I'm doing here is really just a detail work, right? The hands are pretty small that I can't really do that much detail, but they're, you know, big enough that I can split the fingers into suggesting that he's doing a chord, right? And here I'm adding a darker gray to work some anti-alias into the, well, not really anti-alias, but it's just to be more deliberate with the outline colors and the inline colors of my image, just so that it's not like black sitting on gray, but there's different shades. This rim color is also something that I quite like adding. And it's one of those things where you test yourself, because rim lights are very easy to overdo. And if you overdo, you kind of remove a lot of realism to your image, or from your image, because you basically put light where there shouldn't, and people pick up on that. Even if not consciously, people will kind of pick up on the fact that light isn't right. So I created what I spent the rest of the stream calling Tiny Slash. It's a second image of the same file, or a second window of the same document, the same file, and it allows me to see the detail at real size. Now, I'm really happy with how the legs look on that second image. So I'm happy with the way they look there, so I'm not going to really do anything else to them in terms of shape or shading. I do play a little with the outline. I remember also, like almost at the end, that I didn't add a guitar belt or a strap, guitar strap. So I actually end up doing one in brown. Here I'm creating an MPEG head, an amp head from Marshall. And here after someone actually asked, I cut it off the stream, but someone asked about anti-alias. So I decided to invest a little bit of my time suggesting some of that anti-alias on the Marshall letters. So even if like remotely from far away it kind of reads like Marshall, then I'm happy with that. So those are the 4 inputs. This is a JCB 800, kind of, because there's not enough room to put all the knobs in. But I do try and copy its look. It's a very vintage, very cool looking amplifier head. And then I take the same space and I just bring it to a bigger area and make that into the speaker or the cabinets. And I make a stack, of course, because, I mean, how rock and roll are you if you're not standing in front of a Marshall stack, even if it's one of those fake ones that we sometimes see. But the point was really just to create a level of sort of context of putting slash in a certain place. Now I'm kind of uncertain what to do here, playing with light. And someone in the chat, whose name I forget, I'm sorry for that, but thanks for the tip. Someone in the chat suggests adding a hot spot light, you know, like a light beam coming down and actually projecting a shadow. And this is interesting because if this is the light that is generating that rim light, it actually has to come from behind the stacks. So it can't lit slash in front of him. So of course the stacks are going to cause shadows, and that's why the feet will eventually be at least partially in shadow. There you go. The foot is partially in shadow because it doesn't get hit by the same amount of light, right? And you get to see a little bit of that shadow on the ground as well. I do add a little bit more on a bit more of the light on the area on the side. And yeah, this is eventually what it turned out like. And I hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope you learned something from it. Take care.